Chapter 1. The House That Refused. The first sound is iron screaming against iron. It carries through the west corridor like an animal being dragged across stone. I'm halfway down the gallery when it reaches me. That shriek. Too long, too heavy to be a dropped blade. The walls here are lined with portraits, generations of thorns staring down with the same narrow eyes, the same stubborn mouths. Someone has knocked one crooked. The frame hangs by a single hook, tapping softly as the house shudders. Another sound follows. Wet, short. I don't stop moving. The gallery smells like oil and old smoke, the way it always has, but underneath it there's something new, copper, sharp enough to taste. My boots slide as I turn the corner. I catch myself on the banister, fingers closing around carved oak polished by 3 centuries of hands. The grain is familiar enough that I don't need to look. I do anyway. Blood has reached the stairs. It's thin, spreading, working its way down each step with patient inevitability. It glistens in the torchlight, black-red where it pools in the carved recesses. I know exactly whose boots tracked it there. I know exactly how far apart his steps are. Father, I call, and my voice doesn't break. That surprises me. No answer. The house answers instead. Another impact somewhere below, stone cracking, the sound of something heavy being thrown through furniture that has never been moved in my lifetime. I take the stairs 2 at a time. The armory doors are open. They're never open. The iron-banded oak stands split, one hinge torn free, the other bent at an angle that makes my teeth ache to look at. Inside, the racks are half-emptied. Blades are missing. The good ones. Not stolen, taken down in a hurry. There's a body in the doorway. My uncle's cloak has caught on the splintered wood. It's pulled tight across his shoulders. The embroidered sigil of House Thorne stretched and darkened where his blood has soaked through. His sword is still in his hand. The blade is snapped off 6 inches from the hilt, jagged as a broken tooth. I step over him because there's no room not to. The great hall opens up ahead of me, cavernous and echoing, the ceiling lost in shadow. Torches burn too brightly, flaring as if fed by something richer than pitch. The long table has been overturned, chairs scattered like dropped toys. One of the banners has been torn down and lies twisted across the floor, our colors smeared into something unrecognizable. I see my sister first. She's on her knees near the hearth, one hand pressed to her side, fingers slick and red. Her sword lies a pace away, intact, useless. She looks up when she hears me, and for a moment her face does something like relief. Oral. Something moves behind her. It's fast, but not rushed. A blur of pale motion. A hand closing in her hair, fingers threading with terrible intimacy. Her head is pulled back, exposing the line of her throat. She doesn't scream. She makes a sound like breath leaving a bellows. I'm shouting. I realize it because my chest burns and my throat is raw, but I don't hear my own voice over the crack as her neck breaks. Her body folds forward, boneless, and is released to the stone. The thing behind her straightens. He steps into the light as if it belongs to him. He's tall. Taller than anyone in the hall, taller than the space seems built to accommodate. His coat is dark, cut close, unmarked by blood despite the way it pools around his boots. His hair is unbound, pale enough to catch the torchlight, and his face calm, curious, as though this is an exhibition arranged for his benefit. His eyes find me immediately, not searching, knowing. There you are, he says, and his voice is low, even, carrying without effort to where I stand frozen in the doorway. I was beginning to think you'd hidden yourself away. I move without deciding to. My hand goes to the dagger at my belt. Comes free smoothly. Muscle memory. Training. I throw. He doesn't dodge. He catches it. 2 fingers close around the blade inches from his throat. The metal shrieks, bends, and then snaps. The hilt clatters to the floor at his feet. He looks down at it, then back at me, expression unchanged. Ah, he says softly. So much spirit. Something presses into my back. I don't hear it approach. I don't feel it until the moment my shoulders are pinned, arms wrenched wide, spine forced against cold stone. A hand, strong, unyielding, closes around my throat, not squeezing, just holding, claiming the space. He walks toward me while I struggle, boots unhurried on blood-slick stone. As he passes my sister's body, he doesn't look down. This house, he continues, conversational, stopping close enough that I can smell him. Something clean beneath the copper, something old. It refused when others were wiser. I admire that. He reaches out and tips my chin up with one finger, forcing my gaze back into his. Refusal, he says, smiling faintly, is such an inheritance. The hand at my throat tightens. Not enough to choke, just enough to remind me how little room there is to breathe. My heels scrape uselessly against the stone as I'm dragged a step forward, then another, until I'm fully inside the great hall. The doors behind me slam shut on their own. The sound booms through the space and dies slowly, swallowed by tapestries and blood. The one holding me isn't human. I know that the way you know fire burns. His grip doesn't shake. His breath doesn't change no matter how hard I struggle. Valeric steps past my sister's body at last. He does it carefully, so his boots don't touch her blood. That small consideration lands harder than the violence. You should stand here, he says, gesturing with two fingers. The thing behind me moves without waiting for agreement. My body is repositioned, turned, centered, forced to face the long hall. My arms are pinned wide, spread like a demonstration piece. My chin is tilted again until my neck aches. There are still people alive. My mother is at the far end of the hall, half supported by one of the guards. Her hair has come loose from its pins. Blood runs down her temple, matting silver into black. She's holding herself upright out of stubbornness alone. Her eyes are on me. They don't leave my face. My father stands between her and Valeric. His sword is still whole. His stance is correct. He's bleeding from 3 places that I can see, and probably more I can't. But his shoulders are squared, his feet planted like the stone itself might retreat before he does. Let him go, my father says. Valeric's attention shifts, polite as a guest being addressed. No, one word, final. You want me, my father says. You've always wanted us. Take me and leave the boy. Valeric smiles then, not wide, just enough to show he finds this interesting. Oh, he says, I intend to take you. He doesn't move. My father does. The charge is desperate and perfect. Everything House Thorne teaches is in that movement, precision, speed, commitment. He closes the distance in seconds, blade aimed straight for Valeric's heart. Valeric turns his head slightly, as if listening to something only he can hear. Then he steps aside. My father stumbles, momentum betrayed. Valeric's hand comes up and rests against my father's chest, right over his heart. There's no dramatic gesture, no flourish, just pressure. I feel it in my own ribs, a sudden, vicious compression, as if my chest has been caught in a vice. I gasp, vision flashing white at the edges. My father's sword clatters to the floor. Valeric twists his wrist. The sound is wrong, wet, internal. My father folds forward, breath leaving him in a rush that carries his last word with it. Oral. Valeric lets him fall. My knees try to give out. The hand at my throat tightens enough now that I see sparks. I choke on my own breath, helpless, forced upright. Watch, Valeric says quietly, and the word settles into me like a command carved into bone. My mother makes a sound then, not a scream, a broken, furious exhale. She pulls free of the guard holding her with a strength born of nothing left to lose and lunges for me. She makes it 3 steps. Valeric doesn't look at her when he moves. His attention stays on my face, eyes intent, almost gentle, as his other hand lifts. My mother hits an invisible wall. Her body jerks as if struck by a carriage. She's lifted off her feet and slammed back against the stone pillar behind her. I hear the crack of bone before I see the way her arm bends. She slides down the pillar slowly, leaving a dark smear behind. No, I say, tears out of me raw and useless. Please. Valeric's brow furrows slightly. There's that word again. He turns at last, walking toward her with the same unhurried pace he used to approach me. He crouches in front of her as she struggles to breathe, one hand braced on his knee. You raised him to be defiant, he tells her mildly. Did you think there wouldn't be consequences? She spits blood at his boots. For that, he takes her head in his hands. He does it almost tenderly, thumbs braced beneath her jaw, fingers threading into her hair. He holds her like a lover might, forehead nearly touching hers. I feel the pressure again in my own neck. My vision darkens at the edges. Can't look away. I can't blink. Valeric twists. The sound echoes. When he stands, her body stays where it is. He turns back to me, blood finally spotting his fingers. You see, he says calmly, this is not chaos. This is instruction. His gaze sharpens, locking me in place. And you, he adds, voice lowering, intimate now, are the lesson that survives. He lifts his bloodied hand and gestures once. The thing holding me releases my throat just long enough for me to drag in a sobbing breath, and then forces my head to turn. There are others, Valeric says softly. We're not finished yet. I know that before I see them because the house won't stop answering. Footsteps. Running. A shout cut short halfway through a word. Steel ringing once, then silence. The sounds travel through corridors I've walked 1,000 times, twisting the familiar into something hostile and vast. I strain against the hands holding me until my shoulders scream. Stop, I say hoarsely. You've made your point. Valeric tilts his head, considering. Have I? He steps closer again, close enough now that the torchlight fractures in his eyes. They're pale, not glowing, not monstrous, just wrong like depth without bottom. You think this is about punishment, he continues, or fear? That would be inefficient. The hand at my back shifts, fingers digging into muscle. I'm maneuvered forward until I'm forced to stand beside him, my boots inches from my father's body. Blood seeps outward, soaking into the hem of my trousers, warm through the fabric. Valeric looks down at the corpse briefly, thoughtful. Your line has always misunderstood mercy, he says. You think it means letting something go. He turns his gaze back to me. It does not. A figure stumbles into the hall from the side passage. One of the younger guards, barely more than a boy. His helmet is gone. His face is streaked with blood and soot. When he sees me, relief flashes across his features. My lord! He doesn't finish. Valeric doesn't even move his feet. His hand lifts slightly, fingers flexing as if testing the air. The boy jerks mid-step, momentum arrested. His body arches violently, spine bowing, arms flung wide. I hear bones protesting, then failing. Valeric lowers his hand. The boy collapses in a heap, limbs bent at angles that make my stomach revolt. I make a sound that isn't language. That, Valeric says calmly, was mercy. I stare at him, shaking, fury and horror tangling so tightly I can't tell them apart. You don't know what that word means. Oh, I do, he replies. I simply use it correctly. He reaches out and places his hand over my heart. I flinch instinctively, but the grip on my shoulders tightens, locking me in place. His palm is cool through the fabric of my tunic. Not cold. Cool. Like stone that never sees the sun. Your family understood defiance, he says. Sacrifice. Martyrdom. Very dramatic concepts. His fingers press in slightly. You, he continues, understand endurance. The pressure increases, not crushing, not yet, but enough that my breath catches. I feel my heartbeat stutter, then slam harder, as if responding to something deeper than fear. I don't want, I begin. I know. Valeric interrupts gently. That is precisely why you are suitable. He withdraws his hand. The absence of pressure is dizzying. You see, he says, turning away from me at last, pacing slowly through the carnage as though inspecting a finished work. Death is a blunt instrument. It ends stories. He glances back over his shoulder. I prefer continuance. The word settles over me like ash. I could kill you, he goes on, almost conversational now. It would be easy. Cleaner than this. He gestures vaguely at the ruined hall. But then what would all this refusal amount to? He looks genuinely curious. A footnote. He stops in front of me again. The thing holding me shifts, repositioning me without effort, so I'm forced to meet Valeric's gaze. No, he says quietly. You will live. The certainty in his voice is absolute. You will remember, he adds. You will carry them with you. Every choice they made, every stand they took, preserved. My jaw trembles. You think that's mercy? Valeric smiles faintly. I think, he says, leaning closer, his voice dropping to something almost intimate, that it's inheritance. He straightens. Now, he says, as another distant scream cuts off somewhere deep in the house. We should finish clearing the rooms. His eyes flick to the hands restraining me. Keep him upright, he instructs. He learns better this way. The grip on me tightens again, firm and inescapable. Valeric turns and walks toward the shadows of the corridor, his footsteps unhurried, already certain I will follow, one way or another. They don't drag me after him. They carry me. My feet leave the ground as we move, corridors blurring past at shoulder height. I twist and kick uselessly, rage burning hotter now that terror has nowhere left to go. The house groans around us, beams protesting under stresses they were never meant to bear. Smoke thickens the air, acrid, clawing at my lungs. We descend. Stone steps spiral downward into the old crypt levels, places sealed for generations, where the foundations of House Thorne sink their roots into bedrock. The torches here burn lower, flames guttering as if reluctant to be present. The restraint breaks abruptly. I'm thrown forward, hitting the floor hard enough to knock the breath from me. Cold stone bites into my palms as I catch myself. I scramble up instinctively, spinning, and slam into something unyielding. Valeric stands directly in front of me. He hadn't been there a moment ago. Or maybe he had. Time is already starting to misbehave around him. This is where it happens, he says. The chamber is circular, carved directly into the rock. Old sigils line the walls, protective, defiant, painstakingly etched by hands long dead. Some are cracked. Others have been gouged through entirely, as if clawed away. You're standing on the work of your ancestors. Valeric continues, almost fond. They tried very hard to keep me out. I bare my teeth. You failed. His eyes flicker, amused. Did I? He steps forward. I step back and hit the wall. There is nowhere left to retreat. Open your mouth, he says. I laugh. Comes out broken, hysterical. No. He sighs just slightly. Disappointed, not angry. That wasn't a request. Pain explodes behind my eyes. It's not localized. It's not something I can brace against. My jaw wrenches open against my will, muscles seizing, skull ringing as if struck from the inside. I gag, clawing at my own throat, but my body has already betrayed me. Valeric's wrist appears in my vision. He doesn't cut himself. His skin splits cleanly beneath his thumb, blood welling up thick and dark, almost black in the torchlight. It smells wrong, rich, metallic, alive in a way blood should not be. He presses it to my mouth. No, I choke. The first drop hits my tongue. The world ruptures. Heat floods me instantly, searing and liquid, racing down my throat and into my chest like molten metal poured into a mold. My back arches violently. I scream, but the sound collapses into a raw, strangled noise as my body convulses. Valeric holds me upright effortlessly, his grip iron at the back of my neck. Yes, he murmurs, close now, his breath brushing my ear. There it is. The blood burns and freezes at the same time, rewriting everything it touches. I taste ash and iron and something ancient enough to feel like memory. My heart slams so hard I'm sure it will tear itself apart. And then it changes. The rhythm shifts, slows, deepens. Another sensation overlays my own, too large, too steady. A second heartbeat presses in alongside mine, not replacing it, but synchronizing. My vision fractures. For a split second, I'm not looking at Valeric. I'm looking through him. Endless dark halls. Stone soaked in centuries of blood. A throne I don't understand but somehow recognize. I sob, helpless, as the blood keeps coming. Valeric lowers his wrist at last. The wound seals instantly, skin smooth and unbroken. Collapse. I don't hit the ground. He catches me, one arm around my shoulders, holding me upright against his chest. My skin crawls where it touches him. My body is still shaking, breath coming in shallow, broken gasps. Listen to me, he says softly. His voice doesn't reach my ears. It's inside. Clear, intimate, perfectly placed behind my eyes. I scream. The sound echoes uselessly off the stone as his presence settles deeper, threading through thought and sensation with terrifying precision. There, Valeric says, not aloud but everywhere. That's better. My heart keeps beating. It shouldn't. It does. And somewhere beneath the pain, beneath the terror, a new certainty locks into place. He is here. And he is not leaving. Part for he is here. The certainty doesn't fade when I squeeze my eyes shut. It doesn't loosen when I bite the inside of my cheek hard enough to taste blood. It just is. A pressure behind my eyes, a weight threaded through my spine. I'm lowered to the floor. Not dropped. Placed. Stone chills my back through torn fabric. My limbs won't answer me properly. They twitch, shudder, lock. I draw breath in short, panicked pulls that don't seem to satisfy anything. My chest feels wrong. Too full, too steady, like something else has taken over the work. Footsteps recede. I force my eyes open. Valeric stands at the edge of the chamber, already turning away. The torches bend toward him as he passes, flames leaning as if curious. The sigils on the walls crack further, lines spidering outward with faint, brittle sounds. Wait! I rasp. The word barely makes it out. He pauses, doesn't turn. You said. My throat burns. Each syllable feels scraped raw. You said I would live. Yes, he replies, and the word is both spoken and felt, vibrating through me from the inside. I keep my promises. He glances back then just once. His eyes meet mine across the chamber, and I have the awful sensation that he's not looking at me, but into me, testing the shape of the space he's made. You'll want to sleep, he adds mildly. Don't fight it. Your body needs to learn. He steps out of sight. The chamber empties of him, but not of his presence. That remains, coiled and patient, like a hand resting just out of view. Silence settles. Not peace, not quiet, just the absence of motion. I lie there among the dead. My father is closest. His blood has reached my hand, warm at first, then cooling. I curl my fingers without meaning to, smearing it across my palm. My sister's body is a dark shape at the edge of my vision. I can't make myself look directly at her. I wait for the pain to finish me. It doesn't. I wait for my heart to fail, for the burning in my veins to consume what's left. Instead, the burning subsides. The agony dulls into something deeper, dense, humming, like a forge banked but never extinguished. My breathing evens out against my will. My heartbeat settles into that new, alien rhythm, heavy and inexorable. I laugh once, comes out thin and broken. No, I whisper to the ceiling. No, no. My body answers by knitting itself back together. I watch in detached horror as a gash along my forearm closes, skin pulling itself smooth as if erased. Bruises fade. The raw ache in my ribs retreats, leaving only a ghost of pressure behind. I dig my nails into my palm until skin splits. It heals. Panic rises, sharp and suffocating. I try to scream again, but my throat refuses. All that comes out is a hoarse, useless sound. Inside my head, something shifts. Not a voice. Not yet. Just awareness. A sense of orientation, like realizing which way is north without being told. The knowledge that if I were to close my eyes, if I were to reach inward instead of out, I would find him. I don't. I clamp down on my thoughts, on my senses, on anything that might open that door. I stare at the stone above me until my vision blurs, until tears leak sideways into my hair. Die, I whisper. I don't know who I'm talking to. Myself. My heart. Whatever has taken root inside me. Just die. My heart answers with another steady, inexorable beat. I lie there until the torches burn low, until the chamber smells only of old blood and cooling stone, until the house above finishes collapsing into quiet. Death does not come for me. Much later, when my body finally forces sleep on me despite my terror, one final understanding settles in, heavy and absolute. He didn't spare me. He kept me. And the blood in my veins will not let me forget it. Chapter 2. The edge of the world. Cold has rules. It doesn't sneak up on you. It doesn't lie. It announces itself with pain and keeps its promises. By the time I see the settlement, my fingers are numb enough that pain has turned distant, abstract. My breath fogs the air in ragged bursts, each one burning my lungs raw. Snow crunches under my boots in a steady rhythm that feels obscene after weeks of silence broken only by wind. I stop at the ridge and look down. The village is small, too small to matter to anyone powerful. Low buildings half buried by drifts, smoke rising thin and gray from a handful of chimneys. A palisade of rough-hewn logs marks the perimeter, more symbolic than defensive. Beyond it, nothing but white and sky and distance. No pressure behind my eyes. No voice. I wait for it. Count my breaths. 10, 20, 30. I push inward, testing the edges of my thoughts like a tongue probing a sore tooth. Nothing answers. Relief hits hard enough to make my knees weak. I swallow it down immediately. Relief is a mistake. I learned that already. Movement catches my eye. Figures near the gate, bundled in furs, weapons slung easy but ready. Hunters. The way they stand gives them away. Weight balanced, attention outward, not huddled like villagers waiting for weather to pass. I force myself to keep walking. The gate creaks open as I approach. A woman steps forward, bow already in her hand but not drawn. Her eyes are sharp, pale against wind-burned skin. "Hold," she says. I stop. "State your business." She adds, voice flat, practiced. "I'm looking for shelter," I say. My voice comes out rough and used. I clear my throat. "And work." She studies me openly. My clothes are patched and travel-stained. My weapons are visible, worn but cared for. I've learned how to look like what people expect. "What kind of work?" she asks. "The kind that keeps the night away," I reply. A flicker of something, interest, recognition, passes over her face. She glances back at the others, then whistles once. Sharp. A man approaches from inside the gate, broader, older, his beard threaded with frost. His gaze goes straight to my hands, my stance, the way I carry my weight. "Haven't seen you before," he says. "No," I answer. "You wouldn't have." "Name?" The word lands heavier than it should. I hesitate just long enough to make it look like caution, not calculation. "Aurelian," I say. "House doesn't matter anymore. That much at least is true." The man nods slowly. "Survivor, then?" "Yes," I say, and mean something else entirely. He gestures toward the open gate. "We don't turn survivors away. You'll answer questions later." As I step past him, into the shelter of the walls, the wind drops abruptly. The sudden quiet feels wrong, like pressure popping in my ears. Still nothing inside my head. I let myself believe, just for a moment, that the cold has teeth sharp enough to cut even ancient bonds. Behind me, the gate closes, and for the first time since the night my house fell, I sleep that evening without hearing his voice. I tell myself that means I've won something. I don't yet understand the cost. Part 2. They take my weapons first. Not roughly, not with suspicion sharpened into threat. Just procedure. The bow goes to the wall rack, the knives to a table already crowded with blades that have seen more use than ceremony. I watch their hands as they work, competent, familiar with weight and balance. Hunters, all of them, The room they bring me into is long and low-ceilinged, built half below ground to cheat the wind. A fire pit burns at the center, its heat uneven but welcome. The smell of stew hangs heavy in the air, thick with root vegetables and old fat. My stomach knots painfully at the reminder that I haven't eaten properly in days. "Sit," the older man says, nodding to a bench. I do. The woman with the bow takes a position near the door, casual but deliberate. Others drift in, 2 more men, one younger than the rest, another with a limp that pulls his stride uneven. They don't crowd me. They form a loose half-circle instead, leaving space. Feels intentional. "I'm Garrick Frosthail," the older man says. "We call ourselves the Ashbound." "You already guessed that much." I nod once. "Aurelian." "Just Aurelian?" asks the limping man. His tone is light, curious. "Just Aurelian," I repeat. Garrick studies me for a long moment. His eyes are pale, assessing without cruelty. "Where'd you learn to move like that?" I don't bother pretending I don't know what he means. "At home." "Where's that?" "Gone." Silence stretches. The fire pops, sending sparks up toward the smoke hole in the ceiling. The woman by the door snorts quietly. "They're always gone." Her gaze sharpens on me. "What took it?" I meet her eyes. "Something old." That earns me a look from Garrick, sharp, then thoughtful. "Old things don't usually leave survivors," he says. "I ran," I reply. It's the simplest lie I can offer. It fits close enough to the truth that it doesn't scrape. The younger man, barely more than a boy really, pushes a bowl toward me from the far end of the table. "Eat," he says. "You look like you might fall over if you don't." I hesitate. Then I realize how ridiculous that instinct is, and take it. The stew is thick, bland, too hot. I burn my tongue on the first mouthful and barely notice. My hands shake as I eat, not from fear, but from relief, from normalcy. As I swallow, I listen. Inside myself, I find only my own thoughts. No pressure, no weight, no presence coiled behind my eyes. The absence is intoxicating. "How long you planning to stay?" Garrick asks. I consider the truth, then reshape it. "As long as I'm useful." A few of them exchange looks. That answer, at least they understand. Garrick nods. "We don't ask people to stay forever, just long enough to matter." The words land somewhere unexpected. I look down at my bowl before my face can give me away. "Get some rest," he continues. "We'll talk training in the morning." Morning. The word feels unreal. A future tense I haven't used in a long time. They give me a place near the wall, a pallet of furs and wool. As the fire burns low and voices fade into sleep, I lie staring up at the rough beams overhead. I wait for the cold to bite too deep, for the silence to fracture, for a voice to slide back into place and tell me this too is temporary. Nothing comes. I close my eyes, and for the first time since the blood took me, I let myself believe not in freedom but in distance. That turns out to be mistake number 1. Part 3. The cold teaches quickly. By the 3rd day, I stop fighting it and start listening. The wind has moods. The snow has texture, soft drifts that lie, hard crusts that cut. I learn where the ground gives and where it holds. I learn the rhythm of the settlement, the hours when smoke thickens and when it thins, the way people move differently when the light starts to fade. Routine settles over me like a second skin. We train in a cleared stretch beyond the palisade, stamping the snow flat with boots until it turns slick and gray. Garrick drills us hard and without flourish. There's no shouting, no speeches. Corrections are brief, hands-on, sometimes literal. He'll tap a wrist with the flat of a blade, nudge a shoulder into place. "Again," he says over and over until movement becomes reflex. Lyra, sharp-eyed, sharp-tongued, pairs with me more often than not. She watches everything, notices too much. "You don't breathe when you strike," she says one morning, knocking my weapon aside and planting her boot against my knee. "You planning to hold your breath through a real fight?" "I breathe," I reply, resetting my stance. "Not enough," she says. "It's like you don't need to." I don't answer. It's true. I don't tire the way I should. My muscles burn, but the burn fades too quickly, leaving behind only heat and readiness. Bruises appear and then soften, yellowing and vanishing in a day or two. A shallow cut across my knuckles seals before I can bind it properly. I keep my gloves on. At night, we eat together in the low-ceilinged hall. Stew, bread, whatever meat can be spared. Conversation is practical, often grim, threaded with dark humor that doesn't try too hard. Stories are told in fragments. Villages lost, creatures driven off, things half seen in blizzards that no one wants to name too clearly. I listen more than I speak. Ira sits across from me most evenings. She doesn't press, doesn't pry. She just listens when I talk and remembers what I say. Small things. How I take my tea. Which watch hours I prefer. She smiles easily, but never like she's trying to disarm me. Once, during a lull in conversation, she nudges my boot with hers under the table. Not accidental. You're quieter than most, she says. I like listening, I reply. She hums, considering. That can be a dangerous habit. Only if you hear something worth fearing. Her smile turns wry. Or wanting. The words linger longer than they should. I sleep. Deeply. Heavily. No dreams. No whispers. Just black, unbroken rest that leaves me disoriented when I wake, blinking at frost-laced beams and the pale gray light of morning. The silence inside me becomes familiar, comfortable. I start to test it. During patrol, I push outward with my awareness, the way I once did by instinct, reaching for the edge of that coiled presence. I find nothing but myself. My thoughts echo back clean and unchanged. Relief curls low in my chest, tight and dangerous. One afternoon, Garrick sends me and Ira to check the outer markers. The sky is low and heavy, snow threatening. We walk in companionable quiet, boots crunching in sync. You ever think about leaving? She asks suddenly. I glance at her. Leaving where? She gestures vaguely with one gloved hand. Anywhere that isn't this. I look out at the white expanse, the endless nothing. The way it swallows tracks within hours. The way it erases. No, I say and realize I mean it. Not yet. She nods, satisfied, as if that's answer enough. That night, alone on my pallet, I stare up at the beams and try something reckless. I imagine him, not the memory of his face, not the sound of his voice. I imagine the bond, the weight, the pressure, the invasive certainty. I brace myself. Nothing happens. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding and turn onto my side, pulling the furs up around my shoulders. The cold presses in from the edges. The fire has burned low. The world feels distant, muffled, wrapped in layers thick enough to smother anything ancient. I fall asleep believing the silence means the bond has limits. That belief hardens into habit. Habit into confidence. And confidence, I learned too late, is just another way to invite attention. If you liked the story, I'd be so grateful if you could subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Your support means the world to me and helps more people discover the story. Thanks for being here, and sorry for interrupting. Chapter 3. The Kiss. The snowing again. Not hard, just enough to soften edges, to blur the sharp lines of the settlement into something gentler. Most of the others have turned in early. A long patrol waits in the morning. The fire in the hall burns low, reduced to embers that glow more than they heat. Ira and I stay. We sit on opposite sides of the hearth at first, boots stretched toward the warmth, speaking only when something feels worth saying. She's mending a tear in her glove with careful, practiced stitches. I clean a blade that doesn't really need it, more for the comfort of repetition than necessity. You're smiling, she says without looking up. I pause. No, I'm not. She glances at me, one eyebrow lifting. You are. A little. Like you've caught yourself somewhere you didn't expect to be. I look down at the blade. At my reflection warped in the steel. She's right. The realization unsettles me more than the smile itself. This place does that, I say. Does it? Her voice is light, but her eyes stay on me now. Or do you? The fire pops. A coal shifts, sending a brief wash of heat across my face. I shrug. I don't usually. She finishes the stitch, bites the thread clean with her teeth, and sets the glove aside. Then she does something small and deliberate. She moves closer. Not enough to touch. Just enough that the space between us changes. You don't talk about where you came from, she says. I tense. Before I can decide how to deflect, she continues. You don't have to. I just want you to know. I see the way you watch the doors. The way you flinch when someone comes up behind you. My jaw tightens. I don't. She reaches out, slow enough that I could pull away, and rests her hand over mine where it grips the blade. You do, she says gently. And it's all right. Her hand is warm. Not metaphorically. Actually warm. Solid. Human. The contact jolts something loose in me. Not fear. Not anger. Longing. I swallow hard. Ira. I know, she murmurs. If this is a mistake, stop me. She doesn't move closer. She waits. The silence inside me feels complete. Absolute. No pressure. No warning. Just my own breath. My own pulse. Loud in my ears. I tilt my head. So does she. Our lips meet. It's awkward. Careful. The kind of kiss that asks a question instead of answering one. Her mouth is soft, hesitant, tasting faintly of smoke and salt. She exhales against me. A quiet sound that settles somewhere low in my chest. For one impossible heartbeat, I feel human. Then the world breaks. The fire gutters violently. Flames stretching sideways as if dragged by an unseen wind. My vision stutters, the hall doubling, edges misaligning. Ira is still in front of me, her hands still on my arms, but I feel another pair of hands slide around my throat from behind. As cold. Solid. I gasp, jerking forward, nearly knocking her over. My back hits the wall hard enough to rattle my teeth. Ira stares at me, eyes wide. Aurelian? What? He exhales against my ear. Not air. Presence. Is that what you wanted? His voice purrs, intimate and unmistakable, threading directly through my skull. Little dove. The hands tighten. Not crushing, just reminding. To be touched. He continues softly. By a corpse in waiting? I claw at my own throat, fingers scraping uselessly over nothing. My pulse thunders. The hall spins. Ira's face wavers in and out of focus, her mouth moving, her voice muffled and distant. I can smell him. Cold stone. Old blood. Incense burned down to ash. You should have known better, Valeric murmurs. Distance was never privacy. My knees buckle. Ira catches me, arms wrapping around my shoulders as I sag forward. But the phantom grip doesn't loosen. It only layers, overlapping her warmth with his cold, human touch and monstrous claim fighting for the same space. Aurelian, Ira whispers, fear sharp in her voice. Talk to me. Valeric chuckles softly in my head. Oh, he can't, he says. Not right now. The fire dies completely. Darkness folds in around us. And I understand, too late, that the silence was never absence. It was permission. I don't remember getting away from the hearth. I remember Ira's arms around me. Tight. Frightened. I remember the way her voice kept saying my name like it could anchor me. Somewhere between one breath and the next, the pressure vanished. The cold hands withdrew as suddenly as they'd appeared. I told her it was nothing. The lie tasted like ash, but she wanted to believe it. I could see that in the way her shoulders loosened when I smiled badly and forced a laugh I didn't feel. She walked me back to my pallet, stayed until my breathing evened out. She didn't touch me again. That hurt more than it should have. When she finally left, the hall was dark and quiet. Snow hissed softly against the walls. The fire had burned down to a dull red eye, watching. I lay awake. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. Time stretches differently when you're waiting for something to hurt you. Just as my muscles began to slacken, when sleep threatened to take me against my will, I felt him. Not the crushing weight of before. Not the overwhelming invasion of the blood. Hands. They slid over my ribs slowly, deliberate, as if mapping me. Fingers traced the line of my spine, dipped under the edge of my shirt, spread across my stomach with humiliating familiarity. I jerked upright with a gasp, striking out wildly. My fist hit nothing but air. The hands didn't leave. They tightened, pinning me back down against the pallet. Cold seeped through fabric and skin alike, leaching heat until my breath came out in ragged clouds. "Stop," I whispered, panic rising sharp and fast. "Stop it." He laughed quietly. "Still issuing commands?" Valeric murmured inside my head. His voice was silk and stone. Amusement threaded through it. "You were always optimistic." The hands moved lower. I thrashed, dragging furs and blankets with me, nails clawing at the ground as if there might be something solid to grab. My heart hammered, but my body, traitorous, altered, did not fail. It endured. "You don't get to sleep like this," he continued softly. "Not after that." "I didn't." My voice broke. "I didn't mean." "Oh, you did," he interrupted. "You meant to forget." The hands slid away just long enough for me to suck in a breath, and then returned, firmer, more possessive, fingers digging into my hips as if testing how easily I might break. I bit down hard on my knuckle to keep from crying out. The sound echoed too loudly in the hall already. I could feel eyes on me even though I knew no one was awake. "This is what you earned," Valeric said calmly. "Touch without permission. Intimacy without safety." The hands vanished. I lay there shaking, every nerve screaming, skin crawling with the memory of contact that hadn't been real and yet lingered too vividly to deny. Silence returned. Not relief, not peace, expectation. I didn't sleep at all that night. When morning came, gray and thin, I sat up slowly, every muscle aching as if I'd fought for hours. My hands were red and raw where I dug them into the frozen dirt. Across the hall, Garrick watched me with narrowed eyes. "You look like hell," he said. I swallowed and forced my shoulders straight. "Didn't sleep." Lyra snorted. "Join the club." But Ira didn't look at me, and inside my head, beneath the throb of exhaustion, a presence settled back into place. Quiet now, patient. Waiting. It doesn't stop when the sun comes up. That's the first thing I understand. I'm ladling stew into a chipped bowl when he speaks again. So quietly I almost mistake it for my own thought. Too thin. The words slide into place as I swallow the first mouthful. My stomach tightens reflexively, heat blooming where the food hits. "You always ate too quickly," Valeric murmurs, "as if someone might take it from you." The spoon clatters against the bowl. I freeze, breath shallow, eyes fixed on the rising steam. No one reacts. Around me, the hall hums with low conversation, the scrape of benches, the ordinary sounds of survival. I wait for the pressure. The hands. Nothing. Just the voice. I grit my teeth and take another bite. "Better," he says approvingly. "You learn fast when you're afraid." I don't answer. I can't risk it. I focus on chewing, on swallowing, on keeping my face blank. Across the room, Lyra is watching me again. Her gaze sharpens when I flinch at nothing. Training is worse. Steel rings as we spar outside the walls, breath fogging the air. Snow churned to gray slush beneath our boots. Garrick circles us, calling corrections. I move through the forms automatically, body responding faster than thought. "Your stance is off," Garrick says, tapping my ankle with the flat of his blade. "You're leaning." I adjust. "No," Valeric says mildly, right behind my eyes. "That's not what you did last time." I hesitate. The opening is enough. Lyra's strike clips my shoulder, spinning me half around. I recover instantly, too instantly, and counter hard enough that she has to scramble back, eyes flashing. "What the hell was that?" she snaps. "Sorry," I mutter. Valeric hums softly. "Apologizing now? How domesticated you've become." Rage flares, hot and useless. I swing harder than I should. Lyra blocks, teeth bared in a grin that's half challenge, half warning. "Focus," Garrick growls. I try, but the voice keeps going. He comments on everything, the way I breathe, the way I move, the inefficiencies in my strikes. When I improve, he mocks me for needing correction. When I falter, he expresses disappointment so quiet it cuts deeper than shouting ever could. You used to be sharper, he says lazily. Is this what comfort does to you? By the time Garrick calls a halt, sweat is plastering my clothes to my skin despite the cold. My hands shake, not from exertion but from restraint. Ira approaches me as we break. You all right? She asks, keeping her voice low. I nod too quickly. Fine. Her brow furrows. She studies my face, searching for something I don't know how to give her. You sure? Yes. The word lands heavy, brittle. Valeric chuckles. Lying for me now? How thoughtful. I turn away before she can press further. Later, alone, I try to drown him out. I scrub my hands raw with snow until my fingers ache, grounding myself in sensation. I count my breaths. I recite names of dead kings, old prayers, anything to fill the space. He waits. When I falter, when my concentration slips for even a heartbeat, he leans in. You can't starve me, he says gently. I eat what you think. The realization lands slow and terrible. This isn't haunting. It's occupation. I press my palms against my temples, jaw clenched so hard it hurts. Get out, I whisper. He laughs, warm and intimate, curling through my skull like smoke. Oh, Valeric replies unbothered. If I could do that, my love, you wouldn't be nearly so interesting. The village goes on around me, breathing, moving, living. And I understand, with sickening clarity, that no matter how far I ran, I brought him with me. Night takes longer to fall after that. The sky hangs low and heavy, clouds bruised purple and gray, snow threatening but never quite coming. I volunteer for watch just to get away from the hall, from the looks, from the way Ira's concern has sharpened into something closer to fear. The wind cuts clean up here on the palisade, scours my thoughts raw. For a few precious minutes, there's nothing but the crunch of ice beneath my boots and the vast white beyond the walls. I let myself believe, again, that isolation might weaken him. You always liked high places, Valeric says. The words don't startle me anymore. That might be the worst part. I grip the spear tighter and keep my eyes forward. Say what you want and get it over with. A pause. I feel his attention settle, heavier than touch. You're tired, he observes. Hungry, fraying. Silence stretches. Then, very deliberately, come home. The word home lands wrong, sour, and invasive. I'm not yours, I say. He sighs softly. We've been over this. The pressure behind my eyes increases, not pain, not yet, but warning, like a hand resting on a lever. If you return now, he continues calmly, I'll confine you. 10 years, perhaps 12. Time enough for this fixation to fade. Images flicker unbidden, stone rooms, silk sheets, chains that don't show on the skin. I swallow hard. And if I don't? Ask. His voice lowers. Intimate. Certain. Then I will come to you. The wind dies abruptly. Not naturally. As if someone has cupped the world in their hands. I'll start with the hunters, Valeric says, unhurried. Efficient. Quiet. They've been useful to you after all. My grip tightens until the wood creaks. Then the village, he continues. The family that feeds you. The ones who smile when you pass. He pauses. I already know what comes next. And her, he says softly. Ira. The name is spoken with perfect clarity. Every syllable precise. I'll make you drink her blood, Valeric adds. Slowly, until you choke on it. My vision tunnels. Frost bites my lashes. My heart pounds so hard it feels like it might split my ribs. No, I breathe. That, he says gently, is the alternative. I turn away from the edge, pacing the length of the wall like a caged animal. You think this will make me come back? Threatening them? I don't think, he replies. I know. I stop. Face the dark. I won't. The words come out steady, hard-earned. Another pause. Then softer. Almost pleased. Good. The pressure lifts slightly. Enough to let me breathe. I'd be disappointed if you did. Valeric continues. Running suits you. It makes the lesson clearer. My stomach drops. This isn't a choice, I realize aloud. No, he agrees. It's a timetable. The presence withdraws. Not gone, but receding, like a tide pulling back before it breaks. The wind returns. The cold snaps sharp and real again. I stand there long after, shaking, staring out at the endless white. Below me, the village lights glow warm and fragile against the dark. I tell myself I can protect them. I tell myself I can endure. I tell myself that if I stay awake, if I stay angry, if I never let my guard down again, I can outrun a promise. Behind my eyes, something patient smiles. Chapter 4, The Silent Morning That Knows My Name. Part 1, Silence wakes me. Not the gentle kind that settles after snowfall. Not the muffled hush of a village holding its breath before dawn. This silence is flat, complete. It presses against the inside of my skull like a held note that never resolves. I sit up too fast, heart already hammering. No wind. The firs lie still. The smoke hole above is a pale gray eye that sees nothing moving. Somewhere in my body, older than thought, faster than fear, something tightens and pulls me to my feet. I don't call out. My boots hit the packed earth without sound. Even that is wrong. The longhouse should creak. Someone should cough. Someone should swear softly at the cold. Nothing answers. The door opens under my hand with a familiar groan that feels too loud in the quiet. Cold hits my face, sharp enough to sting, and for a wild moment I'm grateful for it. Proof that sensation still obeys rules. Outside, the village stands exactly as it should. And utterly dead. Doors gape open. A pot lies tipped on its side near the cookhouse, stew frozen halfway through spilling. A thick skin already forming on top. Footprints cross the snow in clean lines and then simply stop, as if the ground itself decided to forget them. I take 3 steps. My breath fogs. It's the only movement anywhere. Ashbound. I say, my voice rough, too loud. Garrick. The sound falls straight down and stays there. Blood darkens the threshold of the nearest house. Not pooled. Not sprayed. Placed. A careful trail leading inward. I don't follow it. I don't need to. The smell reaches me as I move. Metallic, sharp, unmistakable. It rides the cold air straight into my mouth, coats the back of my tongue. I swallow and keep walking. Faster now. Boots crunching too loud. Too alone. I know where this path ends. The square opens up ahead, wide and bare. The snow trampled into slush and stained deep rust where it hasn't yet frozen solid. Bodies lie arranged in a loose circle, facing inward. Hunters. Villagers. Familiar shapes reduced to stillness. I recognize Garrick first. He's on his back, eyes open, staring up at the colorless sky as if still watching for weather. Lyra is nearby, her bow laid neatly across her chest, hands folded as if someone took the time to arrange them. Tomas lies closer to the well, one arm outstretched, fingers curled as though he dropped something mid-step. No signs of struggle, no chaos. It isn't a battlefield, it's a display. My vision narrows. A sound claws its way up my throat, half scream, half denial. I stagger forward, and then I see him. He's sitting in the very center of the square, one leg crossed over the other, hands resting loosely on his knee. His coat is immaculate. Not a single drop of blood mars the dark fabric. The snow around him is untouched, as if it knows better than to stain him. He looks up when I move, smiles. "There you are," he says, as if I'm late to a meeting. "I was beginning to think you'd sleep through it." The silence closes in around us, thick and absolute. I take another step without meaning to, and understand with a clarity that makes my knees weak that I didn't wake too late. I woke exactly when he wanted me to. Part 2, I don't remember deciding to move. My body carries me forward as if pulled by a wire threaded through my spine. Each step sinks into slush that gives with a soft, obscene sound. Blood has already started to thicken where it's pooled, the cold sealing it into dark glass. Up close, the order becomes impossible to deny. They're placed to face inward, every one of them. Hunters who would have died fighting now lie positioned like witnesses. Garrick's shoulders are squared, his hands open at his sides. Lyra's chin is lifted, her gaze fixed on the center. Someone closed her eyes. I know because she never would have. I taste bile. My breath comes shallow and fast. I can't stop looking. My eyes snag on details they shouldn't. Tomas's missing glove, the frost clinging to Ira's braid at the edge of the circle, the way snow has been brushed from certain faces as if someone wanted them seen. Ira, she's alive. The realization hits me with such force my knees almost give out. She's bound at the far edge of the square, on her knees, hands tied behind her back. Her face is pale, eyes bright with terror that sharpens into something else when she sees me. Relief. It nearly kills me. I take a step toward her. Valeric stands. The movement is small, unhurried. It stops me more effectively than any shout could have. He walks toward me through the circle of bodies, boots crunching softly. He steps over Garrick without looking down. Over Lyra. Over Tomas. Each footfall lands with deliberate care, as if he's mindful of not disturbing his arrangement. He stops close enough that I can see my reflection in his eyes. Wild, blood-smeared, shaking. Do you see? He asks quietly. My mouth opens. Nothing comes out. He lifts a hand and brushes his thumb across my cheek. I flinch. When he pulls it back, his thumb is stained red. You had something here, he says mildly, and wipes it clean against his own palm. It wouldn't do to leave you marked with their blood. The touch lingers where it was burning cold. This is your fault, he continues, as if stating a simple fact. Every one of them. Rage flares sharp enough to cut through the shock. You did this. Yes, he agrees. I did the work. He tilts his head, studying me with open curiosity. But you chose the place. My vision blurs. I ran. He smiles, slow and indulgent. You scouted. The word sinks its hooks in. You found me a quiet village, Valeric goes on. Competent hunters. A woman you cared about. His gaze flicks briefly to Ira. She stiffens. All gathered neatly, far from prying eyes. I shake my head, violent, desperate. I didn't know. I didn't know you could. Reach this far, he finishes softly. Oh, Aurelian. Distance was never a boundary. It was bait. My chest tightens. The square seems to tilt, bodies blurring into streaks of dark and white. I hear my pulse in my ears, loud and erratic. Valeric leans closer, his voice dropping to something only I can hear. You weren't running from me, he murmurs. You were bringing me new hunting grounds. He straightens and steps past me, turning toward the edge of the square where the survivors are bound, where Ira's breath comes quick and shallow in the cold air. Now, he says calmly, we should address the cost of your mistake. I spin after him, panic clawing up my throat. Wait, I shout. Please. He doesn't slow. And behind me, somewhere at the edge of the village, I hear the first crackle of something unseen snapping into place. The air tightens, the perimeter seals, and I understand with sickening certainty that the lesson is only beginning. Part 3. I follow him because there is nothing else to do. My feet move without instruction, carrying me after him as if the ground itself has decided where I belong. The cold no longer registers properly. Neither does the blood beneath my boots. My body is too busy trying to hold itself together. Valeric stops near the bound survivors. Not close enough to touch them. Close enough that they can see his face. He turns back to me slowly, hands folding behind his back, posture relaxed. Pleased, even. You look confused, he says. That's understandable. Confusion is what happens when a story collapses. I bare my teeth. You murdered them. Yes. He inclines his head. And you delivered them. The words hit harder than any blow. No, I say hoarsely. I didn't. You told them you were safe. Valeric continues, voice mild. You taught them where to sleep, where to gather. You showed them which paths were worth guarding. Each sentence is placed carefully, like a stone added to a cairn. You let them touch you, he adds. Feed you. Trust you. My throat tightens painfully. I think of shared meals, of Garrick's nods of approval, of Ira's hand on mine. I didn't know, I whisper. Vaelric's gaze sharpens, not cruel, but intent. That's the most interesting part. He steps closer again, invading my space until I can smell the faint, clean scent of him beneath the blood and cold. You didn't know, he repeats, and yet you chose. I shake my head, frantic now. I chose to survive. And survival, he says softly, is never neutral. His hand comes up again, not to restrain me, not to hurt me. He places his palm flat against my chest, over my heart. The contact is light, intimate. I freeze. Every soul here died because you wanted to believe in absence. Vaelric murmurs. In silence, in a world where I was not watching. My heart hammers beneath his hand, traitorous and steady. You wanted fresh air, he continues. Privacy. A kiss. His fingers curl slightly, not squeezing, just claiming the space. This, he finishes, gesturing lazily to the circle of bodies, is the cost. Something inside me fractures. I laugh once, short, hysterical. You're sick. Vaelric smiles, small and genuine. And you're mine. He withdraws his hand and steps away, the loss of contact leaving me dizzy. Behind him, one of the bound villagers sobs quietly. Another prays under their breath, words tumbling over each other in desperation. Vaelric turns toward the sound. Ah, he says, still hope left. He looks back at me, eyes bright with anticipation. We'll correct that next. I lunge for him. It's pure instinct, rage stripped of thought. I don't get close. I don't even touch him. The world locks. Pressure slams into my skull, white hot and absolute. My vision tunnels. My limbs seize mid-motion, muscles screaming as they're forced into stillness. I hit the ground on my knees, breath tearing out of me in a ragged gasp. Vaelric looks down at me, unruffled. No more illusions, he says quietly. He lifts his gaze toward the edge of the village. Seal it. Something answers him. The air hums. The light bends. At the perimeter, an unseen wall shimmers into being, subtle, almost beautiful. A hunter runs for it in sudden, desperate hope, and slams into nothing. The sound is dull, final. Vaelric watches without expression. Then he reaches down and closes his hand in my hair. Hard. My scalp burns as he yanks my head back, forcing my gaze up, my neck exposed, my body bent and helpless beneath him. This, he says, voice dropping into something intimate and terrifying, is where you stop pretending you had a choice. He tightens his grip and begins to drag me toward the center of the square. Part 4. The pain is sharp enough to steal the air from my lungs. My head snaps back as Vaelric drags me across the square, boots slipping in slush, teeth rattling hard enough that I taste blood. My hands claw at his wrist on instinct. It's like grabbing polished stone, unyielding, unmoved. Run? I scream, the word tearing itself raw on the way out. Run! The sound echoes too far, too clean. No one moves, because they can't. At the edge of the village, a hunter breaks anyway. One last, desperate refusal of sense. He sprints, breath ragged, eyes wild. And for half a heartbeat hope flares, obscene and bright. Then he hits the blood veil. The air ripples like struck glass. The impact snaps his head back violently, body flung to the ground as if hurled by an invisible fist. He doesn't get up. The sound of it, bone on ice, breath leaving a body too fast, lands harder than any scream. No, I choke, twisting uselessly in Vaelric's grip. My nails scrape against frozen earth, tearing, ripping away in bright flashes of pain that barely register against the larger horror. Please, please. Vaelric doesn't slow. He drags me through blood and snow alike, through what's left of warmth, of names, of faces I knew. My voice shreds itself into nothing as I keep screaming anyway. A hoarse animal sound that does no one any good. Quiet, he murmurs, not unkindly. The word settles into my spine and stays there. My throat locks. My jaw trembles, but no sound comes out. He stops at the center of the square. The bodies ring us, audience and warning both. The survivors are forced to their knees, eyes wide, shaking, bound hands clenched white. Ira is there, still breathing, still looking at me like I'm the last solid thing in the world. I meet her gaze. Something in me breaks clean through. Valeric forces my head up, fingers digging into my scalp until tears spill down my face unbidden. He positions me carefully, like a piece being placed exactly where it belongs. "Watch," he says. The word isn't spoken. It's imposed. Pressure slams down behind my eyes, absolute and merciless. My vision sharpens unnaturally, every detail etched in brutal clarity. I can't blink, can't look away, can't even close my eyes to beg. Valeric steps past me, unhurried, and approaches the first bound hunter. "This is what refusal looks like," he says calmly, as if lecturing. Frame by frame, the hunter begs. It doesn't matter. Valeric kills him with efficient precision, no flourish, no haste. Just a hand, a twist, the soft, final sound of something ending. I feel it. Not the pain, but the knowledge of it, forced into me through the bond. Every sensation mapped and delivered without mercy. One by one, he moves through them. Each death is measured, explained, corrected when necessary. This is what courage buys you. This is what loyalty costs. This is what happens when you believe in someone else's escape. My body shakes so hard my teeth chatter. My vision fractures at the edges, splintering into overlapping images I can't escape. Blood steams against the snow. Screams cut off mid-breath. When he reaches Ira, he stops. He looks back at me. "Watch carefully," Valeric says softly. "This one is yours." Ira is crying now, but she lifts her head when he forces her to her feet. Her eyes never leave mine. "I'm sorry," I mouth soundless. She shakes her head, once, small, certain. Valeric leans in close to her ear and whispers something I can't hear. Then he kills her, slowly, deliberately, making sure I feel every second of it. The scream that finally breaks out of me isn't a sound. It's a rupture. Something in my mind gives way entirely, splintering under the weight of what I'm being made to hold. The world tilts. The square blurs. My vision collapses inward, fracturing into white and red and nothing at all. As the last body hits the ground, the final sound I register is the quiet scrape of Valeric's boots stepping closer. And then, darkness takes me.
This is a dark BL channel, where hope goes to die and subscriptions thrive. We guarantee no redemption, just endless plot twists and heartache. So, have you subscribed yet? Or are you waiting for the next tragic backstory to push you over the edge?
Chapter 5, Still Fighting. Part 1. Consciousness returns like a knife slid under my ribs. I choke on air that won't go where it's supposed to. Snow grinds into my cheek. My hands are numb, fingers curled uselessly against the ground, as if they've forgotten their purpose. The square swims in and out of focus, a carousel of boots and blood and faces that don't move anymore. Get up. The thought is instinct, not strategy. Muscle memory barking orders my mind can't process fast enough. I push. My arms shake, elbows screaming as they lock and slip. My palms skid on slush. I taste iron and realize I've bitten through my lip. The pain helps. It narrows things. It gives the world edges again. I hear him before I see him. Not footsteps, those are too soft. It's the way the space settles, like furniture rearranging itself around a single, immovable piece. "Still with us," Valeric says mildly. I snarl and lunge. It's clumsy, half-coordinated. I don't care. I crash into him shoulder first, teeth bared, hands scrabbling for anything to tear, to hurt. My fist connects with something solid, his chest, maybe, and the impact jars my arm up to the shoulder. It's like hitting a wall that politely absorbs the blow. He doesn't move. He looks down at me with faint interest as I try again, slamming my head forward, aiming for his throat. My forehead glances off his collarbone with a crack that makes stars explode behind my eyes. I roar anyway, sound ripping out of me raw and animal. "Run!" I scream past him, toward the perimeter, toward anyone who might still be breathing. Run, don't stop. A hand closes in my hair. The world jerks backward. Pain blooms bright and immediate as my scalp screams. My feet leave the ground for a heartbeat before I'm thrown aside. I hit the snow hard, rolling, breath knocked clean out of me. I scrabble up again. I don't know how long this goes on, seconds, minutes. Time has gone soft and unreliable. I just know I keep getting up. I keep throwing myself forward. I bite at hands. I claw at sleeves. I land a punch that would have broken a man's jaw and feel nothing give beneath it. Every failure sharpens me. Every failure feeds the part of me that refuses to lie down and wait for permission to die. Someone runs. The movement catches my eye like a spark. A hunter, one of Garrick's, I think, breaks from the edge of the square and sprints for the open white beyond the buildings, breath tearing out of him in ragged bursts. Yes, I scream, voice shredding. Yes, go. Valeric lets me see it. He doesn't stop the man. He doesn't reach out. He simply watches, head tilted, as if curious how far hope can get on its own. The hunter hits the blood veil at a dead run. The air ripples. There's a sound like glass flexing too far without breaking. The man's body snaps backward mid-stride, limbs flung wide, momentum murdered in an instant. He slams into the ground hard enough that the sound carries. He doesn't move again. The square goes very still. Something in me howls and tears loose. I charge again, blind now, reckless, aiming for Valeric's face, his throat, anything, and he allows it. That's the worst part. He lets me exhaust myself, lets me burn through rage and terror and denial until my muscles tremble and my lungs scrape for air. He steps aside from blows that might have mattered to anyone else. He absorbs the ones that land. He waits. When my legs finally give out, I drop to one knee and then both, chest heaving, vision tunneling. He's still standing in front of me, immaculate and patient. Good, he says softly. I was hoping you'd do that. I look up at him through tears I don't remember shedding. My hands shake uncontrollably. Blood drips from my fingers where skin has split against ice and stone. I won't, I rasp. I won't stop. Valeric smiles, not wide, not cruel, almost fond. I know, he replies. That's why this takes a little longer. He reaches down. This time, when his fingers close in my hair again, there's no hesitation left in me. Only the terrible understanding that fighting him isn't defiance anymore. It's something he permits. Part 2. Someone screams. Not in terror, in decision. I lift my head just enough to see her break from the cluster of survivors. Boots slipping in blood-slick snow as she runs. She's fast. Like, she might have been a scout. I don't know her name, but I know the way she moves. Head down, arms pumping, breath already measured for distance. For one stupid, vicious second, my heart believes. The veil answers before she reaches the edge of the village. It isn't a wall. It's a pressure. A distortion in the air that shimmers like heat over stone, barely visible until something tests it. When she hits it, the sound isn't sharp enough to be impact and not dull enough to be absorption. It's both. Her body snaps backward as if reality itself has rejected her. She doesn't bounce. She collapses, limbs folding wrong, skull striking ice with a sound that makes my stomach lurch. Dead. Not wounded. Not screaming. Dead. A whimper ripples through the survivors. Someone drops to their knees. Another turns and retches violently, hands clawing at their throat as if the sight itself is choking them. Stop! I gasp, trying to stand again, legs refusing to cooperate. Please, just stop. Valeric doesn't look at me. He watches the veil instead, eyes intent, as if appreciating craftsmanship. You see it now, he says calmly. Good. He gestures once, two fingers lifting slightly. The air around the village tightens. The veil becomes clearer, its outline sharpening into something almost beautiful. Light bending in a smooth arc, enclosing us completely. Snowflakes drift down and vanish the moment they touch it, erased without sound. No gaps, Valeric continues. No weaknesses. It responds to intent. He finally turns his gaze back to me. Running, he says, is intent. Another man lunges forward despite himself, driven by panic rather than hope. He doesn't even reach full speed before the veil reacts. Pressure slams into him sideways, crushing him against an invisible plane until his ribs cave with a wet, final sound. I scream. Tears out of me without permission, raw and wordless. My hands claw uselessly at the ground, fingers skidding through slush and blood as if I might dig my way under reality itself. Stop showing me this, I sob. Valeric crouches in front of me at last, his face level with mine. This is for you, he says gently. So you don't misunderstand again. He straightens and addresses the survivors, his voice carrying easily across the square. Remain where you are, he instructs. The boundary is absolute. No one moves, not because they obey him, because they understand him. The veil hums faintly now, a low vibration I feel in my teeth and bones, a reminder that the world has been folded and sealed. There is no direction left to run, only inward toward the center toward him. Valeric looks down at me once more. Now, he says almost pleasantly, we can proceed. His hand closes in my hair again. And this time, when he pulls, I don't fight the direction. I fight the meaning. But meaning, I am learning, is something he owns. He doesn't lift me. He drags me. My head snaps back as his fist tightens in my hair. Scalp screaming, vision blurring into streaks of white and red. My knees slam into the ground hard enough to jolt my teeth together. Snow packs into my mouth. I choke, gag, cough, and he keeps pulling. Get up. I rasp, not to him, to myself. My boots skid uselessly. I dig my heels in, the motion instinctive and stupid. The slush gives way beneath me with a slick, obscene sound. I go down again, shoulder cracking against ice, breath punched clean out of my lungs. My hands find the ground. I claw. Fingernails scrape against frozen earth, then catch and tear. Pain flashes bright and immediate, sharp enough to make me cry out. I feel something give, something rip away. Warmth spills across my fingertips, instantly numbed by cold. I don't stop. I claw again, and again, fingers skidding through blood and snow as if the ground itself might hold me if I beg hard enough. Please, I try to say. It comes out as a broken sound, chewed up by my own throat. Valeric doesn't slow. He pulls me past bodies I recognize and bodies I don't, past faces turned toward the center like they were still watching, still waiting for instruction. My shoulder catches on a frozen limb. My hip slams into a low stone. Every impact sends a new flare of pain through me, layering until I can't tell which hurts most. My voice shreds itself. I scream until there's nothing left but a hoarse rasp, until my chest burns and my throat feels flayed raw. The sound echoes off empty buildings and dies without answer. Don't. I sob, words dissolving into noise. Don't. Valeric pauses. For half a heartbeat, hope rears up, ugly and desperate. He leans down, bringing his mouth close to my ear. I feel his breath there, cool, controlled, intimate. You're doing very well, he says softly. Then he jerks my head back and resumes dragging me. Harder now, faster, as if to punish the thought that made me believe the pause meant mercy. My body goes slack for a moment, muscles trembling violently. He doesn't let me collapse fully. He hauls me up just enough that my boots scrape along behind me, leaving crooked tracks that smear and vanish under falling snow. The survivors watch. I feel their eyes on me, wide, horrified, helpless. Someone sobs openly now. Another whispers prayers too fast to mean anything. I want to tell them not to look. I want to tell them I'm sorry. I can't. Valeric drags me back toward the center of the square, the circle of bodies closing in around us again like a jaw. My fingers hang uselessly at my sides now, nails torn, hands shaking uncontrollably. By the time he stops, I can barely hold my head up. He releases my hair. I collapse forward onto my hands and knees, retching violently, stomach emptying itself onto the snow. My vision swims. My ears ring. Blood drips from my fingertips in slow, dark drops that steam faintly against the ice. Above me, Valeric stands patient and composed, not a hair out of place. Good, he says again, approving. That's the last of your momentum. I try to look up at him. My neck won't quite cooperate. I stay there, shaking, broken down into pain and breath and the awful knowledge that whatever comes next, I won't be meeting it on my feet. He doesn't let me curl in on myself. A hand clamps onto the back of my neck and hauls my head up, fingers digging in hard enough that pain spikes white-hot along my spine. My chin is forced high, throat exposed, eyes burning from cold and tears. Look, Valeric says. The word lands inside me like a nail-driven flush. Pressure blooms behind my eyes, absolute, surgical. My vision sharpens until it hurts, every edge too clean, every color too loud. I try to blink. My lids twitch uselessly. I try to turn away. My neck refuses. I'm locked in place. He steps away from me, unhurried, and approaches the survivors. They're shaking now, bound hands clenched white, breath coming fast and shallow in the cold. One of them meets my gaze. Recognition flares, then horror as he understands what I'm being made to do. Please. The man whispers, not to Valeric, to me. I choke on the sound. Valeric stops in front of him. Observe, he says calmly, as if addressing a class. This is what panic looks like when it understands its limits. He places 2 fingers beneath the man's jaw and lifts. The motion is gentle, corrective. The kill is quick, clean, efficient. An adjustment, a turn, a soft final sound as breath leaves the body for the last time. I feel it, not pain mapping. The exact moment life ends is pressed into me through the bond. A precise imprint I can't reject. No, I whimper, the word shredding itself on the way out. My body convulses, muscles trying to fold inward. But the pressure holds me open, upright, seeing. Valeric moves to the next. This, he continues, voice steady, is what loyalty costs when it's misplaced. Another death, different angle, same finality. My vision starts to double at the edges, images slipping over one another like poorly aligned plates. The square tilts. The bodies blur and sharpen in nauseating cycles. My breath comes in ragged gasps that don't feel connected to lungs anymore. He keeps going. Each execution is a lesson. Each lesson is delivered twice, once to the dying, once to me. Notice the hesitation. Notice the fear. Notice how quickly the body understands when the mind refuses. I try to scream again. Nothing comes out. My throat locks around the sound and crushes it flat. By the 3rd, 4th, I lose count, the world starts to fragment. Snow turns to white noise. Blood becomes color without shape. Sounds arrive late or too early or not at all. Valeric returns to me at last. He crouches, bringing his face into my forced field of vision. His eyes are bright, intent, almost kind. Stay with me, he says quietly. We're nearly finished. My knees buckle. I would have collapsed if he weren't holding me there by the back of my neck. Fingers unyielding. Good, he murmurs, watching the way my focus slips and struggles to reform. You're learning how much you can hold. He straightens and steps away again, toward the final bound figure at the edge of the square. My vision fractures completely, splitting, rejoining, splitting again, until the world becomes a stuttering sequence of frames I can't escape. I don't hear the last sound. I feel the absence that follows it. The pressure behind my eyes eases at last. Just a fraction, just enough. My head lolls forward. The ground rushes up to meet me, and the bond, sated for the moment, allows me to fall. The pressure lets go. Not all at once. Not kindly. Just enough. My head drops forward, chin striking my chest, and the sudden absence of force is so disorienting it feels like falling through a hole punched in the world. My knees buckle. I try to catch myself and fail. My hands hit the ground, palms first, screaming in protest as torn nails meet ice. Collapse anyway. Snow presses against my cheek, cold and wet and immediate. My breath comes in short, uneven pulls that don't seem to go anywhere useful. The world narrows to sensation without context. Burning fingers, aching neck, lungs that refuse to settle. No one speaks. That's the worst part. The square, moments ago full of sound, screams, impacts, breath tearing out of bodies, goes utterly still. Snow drifts down in lazy spirals, hissing softly as it lands on blood-warmed ground. The blood veil hums once, low and distant, then quiets, like a held breath finally released. I wait for him to say something. He doesn't. Boots step into my field of vision. Black leather, dusted with snow, the soles darkened and slick where they've passed through blood. They stop inches from my face. I can see the fine stitching along the edge, immaculate and deliberate, the way everything about him always is. I can't lift my head. I don't know if I want to. Vaelric stands there for a moment longer, presence heavy even without touch. I feel his attention settle, test, then withdraw, not gone, never gone, but no longer pressing. Enough, he says quietly. The word isn't for me. Hands release me completely, not roughly, simply absent. My body sags into the snow, muscles finally giving up the lie that they can keep going. The cold seeps in deep now, reaching places pain has already hollowed out. My vision dims at the edges, tunneling inward. The boots blur. The square dissolves into smears of dark and white. The boots blur. The square dissolves into smears of dark and white. Cold seeps deeper now, past pain, past thought. My body finally surrenders, muscles slackening into the snow as my vision narrows to a thin, flickering tunnel. Breath becomes something distant, unreliable. As consciousness slips, there is no comfort in it. Only dread, not of what has been done, but of what hasn't happened yet. Of waking, of the space after this, where pain won't be loud or sharp enough to end me, where suffering will have time to stretch and settle and become something permanent. I wish, briefly, uselessly, that I were mortal, that I could let this be the end, that I could die here in the snow and be spared what waits for me when I wake up. Then the dark closes incompletely, and even that mercy is denied.